Hello everyone, my name is Ian Boswell, and I am here to teach you about how to use Macromedia Flash, or Adobe Flash as it's now called, to basically do some basic animations, and you can pretty much get it anywhere. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend torrenting it or doing anything illegal like that, but if you are taking classes at a school and you're learning Flash, they probably have a version of Flash available for you to learn from. I'm going to be using Flash MX Professional 2004 because it is one of my favorite versions of Flash available, but that's just because I'm biased and really like the layout of it. But anyway, so we're going to start a new document, and the first thing is going to be asked is what type of document you want to make. Make a Flash document. So, alright, so all versions of Flash pretty much have the same basic layout. You have a timeline bar, which we will orientate you to in another lesson. You have your view screen, which shows you what the active canvas is like. For some reason, it's defaulted to a red square for me. Usually, it's going to be more like a white square or something like that, or maybe a white rectangle. And basically, anything that goes within this space will be viewed. But we don't want to run our Flash animation like this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on Modify, or Control-J, and go to Document. And to basically change this resolution, we're going to set it to 1280 by 720. Once again, 1280 by 720. And if you want to know why, it's because that is a standard high definition 19. Basically, it's a really nice resolution that works well on YouTube and other things like that. So if you're going to be making a Flash video for YouTube, I recommend, again, 1280 by 720 because it just looks really good. If you want to go crazy, and feel free to, you could go 1920 by 1080, but you don't need to actually do that. You can be just fine doing everything in 1280 by 720, and then if it's done, if everything's made out of vectors, which is something I'm going to be teaching you soon. If everything's made out of vectors, when you scale it up to 1920 by 1080, it's going to look fine. Anyway, I prefer the 1280 look. Alright, so let's start with the most basic thing you can do in Flash. We basically need to look at our tools here on the left side. You will notice there are drawing tools. There's tools for making shapes, like the rectangle tool. You can press the R key and that will call it up automatically. And by default, you'll have some colors. You can set these to whatever you like by just clicking on a color. I recommend let's start with like an orange or a green square, and also make sure your outline color's there. In fact, if you want to even go crazy and change the thickness of the outline, just go to properties and see you can change the outline. You can even go even crazier by double clicking on the square and setting the radians of your square so it has rounded edges. In fact, you can make a very round looking square like this, which I'm doing right now and demonstrating to you. See that? Now all this is very advanced stuff, so you don't have to even worry about it. I'm just showing you it because it'll be something that you might want to play around with when you have free time after this lesson is done. Because once you complete each one of these lessons in this tutorial, I basically want you to spend about 50 minutes taking what you've learned from today's lesson and attempting to make something with it. And then the rest of your day you can do whatever you want. You know, read books, go to other classes, do whatever it is you want to do. But just for today, we're taking baby steps here. Let's try and animate one thing, and that's all we're going to do. So the very first thing I want you to do, again, is press R or go to the square tool, and just go to it. Pick a color for your square. We're going to pick green now. Pick a color for your outline. If you want to get really cool, I recommend a cyan square with a blue outline, because it makes the cyan look like it's kind of glowing. But you know, whatever you want to do. So we're going to pick a cyan colored square with a blue outline. And now what are we going to do with this? Well, as a designer, we could do all sorts of crazy stuff with this. We could take this and then go here and set our linear and change the linear color to blue to white, and then, you know, have it go down like that, and then delete the outside line, and then bam, you have something that looks like an app icon from iTunes. You don't need to do that. It's just a really cool thing that I recommend checking out, because vectors in Flash have a lot of flexibility. You can do all sorts of really cool design stuff with them to make things feel more dimensional, multi-dimensional, feel like they have depth to them, feel like they have life to them. And that's really cool stuff you can do with Flash. I highly recommend it as a tool, not only for animating, but just for drawing as well. I do a lot of just standard flat-out drawings in Flash, and they tend to look better than drawings done flat in Photoshop. And then I'll import the drawings from Flash into Photoshop, which will, of course, rasterize the drawing. If you want to know what a raster is, let's take this box I've been making here, this very pretty box, and now let's zoom in on it 800%. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is, wow, everything is really smooth. Like this transition line is really smooth from here to here. Now, if we go back out to 100% and we do a print screen and open it up in Adobe Photoshop, so we're opening up Photoshop CS6 now, and we're now going to basically zoom in on this box in Photoshop. So let's open Photoshop. Now, this image has been rasterized. So if we zoom in on it, you're going to notice that it's very pixelated. So there's lots of blocks, in other words. It's made out of boxes. Why is it made out of boxes? Well, it's because this is raster. Raster art and raster imagery has a set finite distance of which it can be zoomed in on. Whereas if we, again, zoom in vector, just look at that. Look at the difference there. You can see how smooth this is versus how, not smooth this is. So that's just a quick example of the difference between raster art and vector art right there. So you can see that line here smooth, here pixelated. So that hopefully is a good side-by-side comparison which you can take with you and apply to the rest of your life. Once again, this is vector, and this on the left side is raster. So thank you for following my mouse along as I pointed. I hope you saw that. If not, I'll draw arrows. So there's vector, and there's raster. Whoops, sorry. Why is that in dither? Sorry. Raster. And so here's what raster painting can look like, by the way. If you do something in raster, you can have things like smoothness and fade and crossfade, and you can have blur, and you can blend things and all sorts of stuff. And when we get into the Photoshop side of this tutorial, we'll go over how you can literally like paint in Photoshop. But with this, you don't have tools like that at all. You don't have anything like that. You're basically working with fine lines and drawn shapes. And when you draw a shape out, the shape is basically going to become a vector. So like this smiley face looks pretty hand-drawn, but if we zoom in on it, it'll never lose its quality. It'll always be made out of polygons. Whereas if we draw a smiley face here, let me go ahead and clear this out and make it white very quickly. So if we draw a smiley face here, once again, just hammering this in so you remember it, what do you think is going to happen when I zoom in on this smiley face? That's right, it's not going to stay smooth. So you can see the difference left and right. It's like night and day. So yeah. Alright, so let's go into Flash. This is Flash. We're using Flash now, 100%. And let's take our box. And let's take a simple box. Let's take the box like the one you've made. It should look something, well, I'll just go ahead and make it fresh. So I'm picking a color to fill it in with. I'm going to pick green this time, and then a complementary color like purple. So now we've got this. Now, select it, convert it to a symbol, and set it to a graphic. Or just, don't. Whatever you want to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I'm suggesting that if you highlight your object and then you convert it to a symbol by right-clicking on it and then choosing a graphic as the symbol, not a movie clip or a button, but a graphic. We'll get to buttons later. You should now be able to then say free transform, and you can shape this object, and you can bulge it out, and you can make it tall, and you can do all kinds of weird, stretchy, fun, bouncy things to it. You can even flip it in reverse, whatever you want to do. This is now your box to do whatever you like with, and it can be shaped, it can even be rotated. So, what are we going to do with this box? We're going to make it move. So to make this box move, we're going to right-click, create motion tween, and then we're going to drag it out to about 45 frames. Actually, no, let's make it 60. So running at about, go to modify document very quickly and make sure your frame rate is set to 25 FPS. Yes, if you make if our document is at 25 FPS, that means that 60 frames will be just over 2 seconds. So 1, 2. So it's about 2.4 seconds. So now we want to make this box move from the left side to the right side. Now notice at the start point, I had it here, and then at the end point, I had the box here. So you just literally go to that point on the timeline bar, and you move it. So at the start, it would have looked like this, where the timeline bar is just set in stone. But then if you click it and then move it, and then you move back and forth along the timeline bar, you'll notice the box is now moving. Whoa, isn't that cool? So if we hit enter and play our document, you can see over that 2.4 second time frame, the box is now moving. Now, as an animator, I'm going to very quickly show you what I could do, which is really cool with this, is I would have it move back and forth. So if I wanted to make this the coolest looking moving box I could possibly make it using just a box, I would probably go to the 30-second mark because that's the midpoint, and then I would have to work on smoothing out this animation. So first, I would have it work like this, where I would bring the movement back. I would then stretch the box a little bit because it's moving fast, so I would stretch it. So we then have that, so it's and then it pops out again, and we would probably add a little bit of a redundancy pop, so it would pop back, so and then it would start moving back to where it came from. And on the way back, we could also squeeze in that motion to bring that out. And then at the end, we could then cycle through and have it pop out and go, and then that would then resize back to its original state here at like this frame mark. So it go, whoops, sorry, a bit too slow there. Let me move that back in. Sorry about that. So I guess I've timed this animation down to be way faster now, but that's because I like fast. I like fast motion. I like fast movement. Because you see, your eyes try to follow it, and they don't notice the lack of information, I should say. So yeah, and you can see the bouncy and squishiness of it already. But we can go even better than this. We can do much better than this. So let's work even more on each frame as we animate. So there it is at that state, but we can actually do this even better. And then here. And we can even get a little fun with this. We can actually print screen this, open it up in Photoshop, and then raster this image by doing a filter, blur, motion blur, and then adding a 0-degree angle visual motion blur there. Copy that and paste it in right where the actual box would be just for that frame. In fact, let's go ahead and do a new layer for that image. We'll talk about layering in a later lesson, but just for now. So you see a bit of blur happening there, which your eyes just try to follow. And then on this frame, I think it could be further out. And then here, we're starting to see slowdown, and then impact, which at first isn't even detectable. Then we have big impact, and then it fans out to how we were at originally. Make it nice and stretchy and squishy. Actually, let me take this box as our example for how that frame should look. Paste that frame here and keep it there. So, yeah, it's not quite there yet. We're getting there, though. Alright, so it's a bit too large, I think, in this frame. So let's squish that out a bit. Whoops. Squish it just a lot more. Yeah, okay, so, and then it can stay stationary there for a moment before moving back. So, and then stay stationary for like half a second. Make that a bit more wobbly. We can even add a bit of wobble to it, where like it might collide and then like kind of like Jello, jiggle back to where it was. So, but not quite like that. That's not the right motion we're looking for. We're looking for something more like this. A little bit more. Alright, so it still needs something. It's getting there, though. That's the problem. No, that wasn't the problem. Sorry. Just kind of thinking to myself here what to do with this. There we go. Okay. We're getting there. That's what I'm kind of looking for in the motion, but a little bit more subtle. Anyway, let's just start fresh with this. And then copy to there, paste to there, put it where we want the endpoint to be. One thing I could do is I could create a line of reference, which would probably help me out here in this situation, because I'm noticing a lot of drift. So like I can now make a wall that our box collides with as a point of reference. So see there, it's not stretching out at the right point. And there it is. And then it comes out of the wall like that. Perfect. Alright. And just stay there for a bit. So, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. So see, animation in Flash is quite easy to do, even with the most basic stuff. And I want you to take from my example of what I'm doing here and try and make your own thing out of it. Just you know, do whatever you want with it. I'm not saying you should make something like this, but try and play around with animation and see what kinds of cool and crazy things you can have your square do. For instance, you could take your square and you could take it and make it spin around. Let me just go ahead and delete this layer. Okay, so you could take your square and using the rotational tool by saying free transform and then going to the edge to where the tool's shaped like this, you could then spin it around. Maybe it's like some kind of a ninja star or a shuriken that's spinning either in slow motion or very fast. And then you could slow that motion down by like tweaking it each step of the way to get to exactly where you want it to be. And then you can make a motion that looks kind of like this, where it's whoops, sorry about the motion blur being in there. Yeah, so you can do cool stuff like that. You could even go really crazy and have your box change size. So like maybe it'll get really big all of a sudden. And just go ring. And then maybe after that you'll have it size back down to where it came from before. And maybe it'll have a little bit of a pulsing motion. It goes, you know, kind of like collides. And then it goes back to being small again. So, and then maybe when it goes in, it'll like stick in some more, and then come back out again with a nice smooth collision to it. So, yeah, like that. So, I don't know why I'm adding sound effects, but you basically get the gist of what I'm talking about here, which is this is a box. You can do anything with it. As long as it's within this white space, it's going to play. Now, how do we get to actually watching our movie outside of the tool? Once we've made a movie, like maybe you've decided to reenact the famous book Flatland by A. Square, and you'd like to have a meeting between two squares, and they discuss, you know, the whereabouts of their day. Like, let's say this is like, let's change its color to like blue. So this is A. Square's brother, B. Square. And he comes into the scene, and he's all like, you know, oh, hello, brother. How are you doing today? And so he comes in, and his brother's like, I'm feeling rather sick because my size keeps changing for some reason. And then he's all like, oh, well, I'm noticing that. So maybe he's like talking. So like in order to talk, he's like shifting back and forth, kind of almost like a lip sync. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm noticing that. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm noticing that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh god. So you know, I don't know. I'm just playing around here. It's like, oh yeah, I'm noticing that. So you know, you play around with that frame, that sequence, and there's a lot of repetition in animation because you got to make sure it's right. You know, you just kind of feel it out, and once it feels right, you're good with it. So if I seem to be repeating myself a lot, that's because that's just how animation is. So, okay, so now these two squares are talking to each other. Maybe we want to record, you know, they're talking to each other. So we use an audio recording tool. If you're in Windows, you have a base sound recorder. Here I'm using Audacity, which is a free tool. So I'm just going to be like, oh, hello there, brother. So, oh, hello there, brother. Okay, so we've saved that. So now we do this, whatever, doesn't matter. And then we import it into onto the stage. So whatever we just named that, I think it was like this. So we take this and we then plop it down right there, and we make sure that the the setting is set to stream. Don't do event, don't do start, don't do stop. Set it to stream, because if it's streaming, then the animation will always sync to the sound. So now he comes in and, oh, hello there, brother. A little too soon. Oh, hello there, brother. And yeah, it's not that good, but whatever. For now, if you're a first-time animator and this is your first time doing it, that is, if you could do this, there, brother, I'd call you some kind of a prodigy, because seriously, if you could really pull that off, wow. So what we can do now is we can go to publish. We can set our settings. We can do it as a Flash file, a GIF. The GIF won't have sound, obviously, if we do it as a GIF. Flash is an SWF format. You can then set your sound quality. I recommend something that's not 16-bit mono. Probably do 32 or 64-bit MP3. So there you go. And then if we hit publish, then we can literally just watch this file now. It should have a web page somewhere here. Oh, we didn't name our file. Sorry. So sorry. File save as hello bro. So we're going to save that to the desktop as hello bro. Then we're going to publish. There we go. And then hello bro should show up as a file which we can now open in our web browser. Oh, hello there, brother. And watch, and it'll loop. Oh, hello there, brother. Because we haven't in the timeline put a stop command. If you do want to put a stop command at the end, just make one single keyframe and say the actions and go to movie control. Where is it? I think it might be under global convent. Yeah. Timeline control or movie clip control. And we just want stop. There we go. So just stop, open bracket, close bracket, and a colon or semicolon, and that's all we need. So now if we publish it again and we replay, the movie's going to play one time. Oh, hello there, brother, and then it's going to be over, and it won't replay, and it's done. And if we wanted to replay it, we'd have to right click and say play again. Oh, hello there, brother. So that's some very, very, very basic stuff, which I might have gone over a little bit too fast, but that's okay, because what I'm wanting you to do today is none of what I've been doing right now. What I want you to do, what you need to do to finish this class, is you need to make this square, whatever color you want it to be, move from point A to point B. And that's all you need to do. Now, you can already start to see why Flash is a very powerful tool. I'm sure that many of you have seen television shows which are animated using Flash on television. Some good examples of this would be Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. The new Powerpuff Girls episodes that are coming out are going to be done in Flash. There's just a ton of stuff. Johnny Test actually has Flash animation in it. Just think of a popular television show you've seen, especially shows on the Hub, which have been done in Flash. Good examples would be like Littlest Pet Shop, Pound Puppies, things like that. They're all done in Flash, and they look great because you basically are taking stuff like this and you're adding tons and tons and tons and tons of tweaks and animation frames, and you're putting about as much effort into doing a traditional animation as you would with a specialized tool with shows like that. But it's still a really great tool for accomplishing goals very quickly in a short amount of time. It makes the active animation super easy and super simple, and it's a fantastic tool all around, both for animation and game design. I totally recommend it. So, just think of all the crazy stuff you can do with Flash. So, get out there, get animating, make a box, move from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen, please, as your first lesson. That's your due assignment at the end of the class. I don't care whatever else you add to it. If you want to create another layer, just click on this button that says New Layer, and then that will create a new layer, and then behind the animation you can put in something like a sunset or a river or a planet. Maybe this is taking place in space. I don't care. Just draw whatever you like. And then tomorrow, when you come back, we will resume with a new lesson that will go even further into what you've already learned and take your skills to the next level. So, thank you for watching, everybody. I hope that this excites you about animation, and we will resume soon. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.